This is kind of a deep little subject matter that I have on my mind right now, but I'm kind of like my blood is kind of boiling. But here is the title of my video today. If someone is offended by something that you said, you don't have the right to tell them that they don't have the right to be offended. Capiche? I am just seething over something that I recently read and comments that I have recently heard. You know, the thing about being offended is, I know a lot of people think that we live in a society where people are like snowflakes and that they get offended by every little thing. And, to some extent, maybe people are right. But, you know, there's a saying that says you can't control what other people say or do, but you can control your reaction to it. And with that being said, I pride myself on having a pretty thick skin. I've pretty much heard and seen it all. My mother told me a long time ago, never flatter yourself to think that there's been something that's been said or that's been done that hasn't been done before. The world is very old. There's very few things that are really original in this world. But when it comes to being offended or having people offend you, that is an individual thing. Some things that I don't find very offensive may be offensive to someone else, and I respect their right to be offended. It doesn't mean that I don't think, geez, I don't understand what the big deal is, but I would never impose my feelings and my beliefs on someone. If they feel strongly enough to say that they're bothered by something that was said or is being done, that's their right. They have the right to feel the way they want to feel. It is incredible to me the things that people say and things that people get away with. And people try to justify it by saying, well, you have a choice to be offended by it. Bullcrap. Bullcrap. Yes, you have a choice to be your reaction to it. But if someone has offended you, you have every right to be offended by it. And for people who say, well, you have a choice to be offended by it, to me, what the impression I'm getting when people say that is that those people feel the same way the person that offended you feels, and they're trying to justify it. It's kind of like victim shaming in a way. It's their way of saying, oh, calm down. Don't take it so seriously. What's the big deal? Well, you know what? It is a big deal. This is where empathy comes in. Having the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes. It takes so very little time to edit yourself, to think for just a split second before you say something about how it's going to be perceived by people and if you're going to offend someone. Sometimes I've said it more than once when I make my videos. I am someone that very much shoots from the hip. And sometimes that can rub people the wrong way. And I'm always the first person to say, if I offend someone, I'm truly sorry. It's not my intentions. But you know what? There are people in the world, it is their intention. Their intention is to offend people, to ruffle feathers. And we're not talking about comedians that want to push the button and see how far they can push people and open a dialogue for conversation. We're talking about people that just want to be cruel, that think they're funny, that get off on belittling other people to make themselves feel better about themselves. I don't know where people get off with this kind of thinking. I had a conversation with a friend of mine years ago where we disagreed when it came to the matter of race. And I pulled her aside and I said to her, listen, I'm not going to talk about the way you were raised. I'm not going to talk about your parents. I'm not going to talk about your upbringing. But somewhere along the line, I think you were told that you were better than a certain person just because of either the color of your skin, your financial background, your religious background, how you were raised, whatever the case may be. I know that you have been told time and time again that you're better than group A or group B because of simply who you are. And I'm here to tell you, as much as I love you, there is absolutely no difference between you and me. We are equals in every way. And I hate to burst your bubble, but that's the truth. And it was difficult to tell that to a friend. And we're still friends to this day. And it's kind of like a subject that we sort of dance around because her friendship means very much to me. But it is something that we had to put on the table. And, you know, it is such a learned trait to hate and be prejudiced. And I just don't get it. There are so many things that you can pass down to your children and to your children's children. Stories about where you come from. There's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are and where you came from. But don't get it twisted. There's history and then there's his story. There's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are and where you come from. But you don't, if you have to belittle another group of people to make yourself feel better, or if that's the moral of the story of your family or where you come from, is that you're better than group A or group B, there are so many things you can pass on to your children, and your ignorance and stupidity should not be one of them. No one's telling you not to be proud. But teach your children kindness. Learn something from children. They simply don't care. They have a common goal and a common interest, and that's to have fun. Kids don't see color. Kids don't see class, different classes. They don't care what you make or where you come from. Kids are very fair that way. They know you, and if you have an interest that interests them, that's enough for them. And they embrace you, and they want to be your friend. And that's the way I was as a child, and that's how I am as an adult. And I hope I never lose that. And I don't mean to be on a soapbox. I almost said soap dish. I don't mean to be on a soapbox, but I was, having a conversation, and then I was seeing a comment about someone saying, well, you have a choice to be offended. No, you don't have a choice to be offended. You have a right to be offended. You have a right to stand up for yourself. When you are being belittled, or you're having stereotypes being thrown upon you, when you've got that thumb on you being pushed down and you're being oppressed, you have a right to stand up for yourself. I don't know where this country gets it so wrong, but they got it wrong. And not all of us are like this. The majority of us are very kind. And it's just not an American problem. It's a problem in the world. Stop being superficial. Think of people like books. If you want to get to know them, open them up, read and discover. Don't be narrow-minded. And if you're going to be narrow-minded, don't teach your children to be so. It's so limiting. Don't limit your children. Don't teach them to be ignorant. And you certainly don't have the right to tell people how they should feel. Even though I'm making a video right now telling people, you don't have the right to do this, you don't have the right to do that, I realize in the end, it's your choice and you're going to do whatever you want. But it's my choice to be offended when I hear something that's offensive. And I'm not saying just something that's offensive towards me. I'm talking about something that's offensive, that's about people that aren't true. I find redeeming qualities in everyone. It's funny because I get along with everyone pretty much very swimmingly. And I've always had a saying that I always said, I can find a redeeming quality in just about anyone. And if I don't like you, you got trouble because I can get along with just about anybody. But that's because I am fair. And I'm not tooting my own horn when I say that. I'm proud to say I'm fair. And when people aren't being treated fairly, I'm going to speak up. And when I'm not being treated fairly, you're going to hear about it. Maybe not you in particular, but the person that's not treating me fairly is definitely not going to hear about it. And they can turn and walk away. They can snicker. They can laugh. They can disagree. They can argue back with me. But if you can dish it out, you should be able to take it. So that's what was on my mind tonight. I'm feeling rather combative and argumentative. I kind of like that because that kind of emotion, even though it's one I'm not too familiar with, the word I'm trying to look for, it motivates you to do things. And that has been the goal my entire life, is to make change. And if I make change by just making a video and letting my voice be heard, and to let other people out there know that might be like-minded, or people that are the ones that are being offensive, and maybe they find offensive with this video I made, I encourage that too. If you disagree with me, leave a comment. Be respectful. I'm not going to tolerate any sort of hate. I don't tolerate it in my regular life. I'm not going to tolerate it on here. But open lines of communication, constructive criticism, I welcome it all. So that's what's on my mind this feisty Friday night. Protect yourself at all times. Isn't that what the boxers always say? Well, anyway, I'm done with my rant. I wish you all well. I hope you have a great weekend. It's another work weekend for me. I hope this video finds you well. If I don't talk to you this weekend, have a wonderful weekend. For anyone in the U.S. or anyone that celebrates it, have a happy Labor Day. And for all the kids that might be watching, the party's over, school's starting back up, but I hope you get to reunite with all your friends and your teachers you may have missed. Please be safe. And to anyone watching in the Florida area or anyone that's going to be affected by Hurricane Dorian, I'm praying for you. I pray you stay safe. Please take precautions. Please heed the warnings. Don't storm chase. Don't be silly. Be safe. I wish you all well. And until I talk to you again, take care. Bye.